What's good? Welcome back to another episode, man. Listen, this one is going to be a little different because typically I talk about cybersecurity and etc. Well, this topic might have a little aspect of cybersecurity. My main thing is going to be talking about the financials. Before we even begin, I'm going to need y'all to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And on top of that, just know I'm not a financial advisor. Out of anything, I'm just trying to help the community that's inside the tech space or interested in getting inside cybersecurity. And then after that, we can move forward. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and begin. This topic is mainly about how I paid off $75,000. Yes, I said it, $75,000. I'm not going to tell you that it was easy. It's for damn sure it was a struggle. But man, it paid off tremendously. As many may know, I was in the military. And when you're in the military, active duty, they pay for your housing and you come with a lot of benefits. Hell, you don't even pay for baggage when you're in the airport. With that being said, I was very reckless when it came to money. And the reason being, and this is not to blame anybody, but I was never taught the principle of money, the art of money, how to spend it, where your money should go, how to make investments, and the power of 401ks and IRAs. That's why I messed up at. That being said, I'm out here just just balling, right? I always ate out. Bought new clothes. One point I was doing music. I was buying all these keyboards and different software. And man, and when I tried to learn how to invest, I was just backwards with it, man. I was literally taking out loans to make huge investments and then do marginal loans from my stocks and literally just be upside down and I did horrible stock options. Man, I was horrible. I'm telling you. But a part of me had to give myself grace because I didn't know. And that's a part of learning. But the reason why I made this channel was because you can go down the same path I did, but know that this channel is so you don't have to make those same mistakes I did. I literally built a platform to help out everybody that wants to be helped and wants to get out of this situation. I'm here to tell you that you're not alone. You damn sure ain't. I'm telling you. So with that being said, 75K, boom. I'm out the military. I already told y'all before, I slept in my car and that was rough. But one thing that kept me strong and gave me a little hope at life is when I slept in my car, but I ended up getting a job offer to be a senior cybersecurity analyst. This is where everything turns around because I'm about to tell you right now how I did it. The first thing I want to say is having a partner is very crucial inside of your success if you decide to be in a relationship. And I say that because my wife was very disciplined with money. I wasn't. It was very hard for us to come to terms with it because I wanted to do things my way and she had a way that already worked. I was being so stubborn. I didn't want to listen. I'm just like, man, like I've been doing this, you know what I mean? I'm over 20 years old. I'm a grown man and da 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 da. You know, sometimes men, we kind of have egos and that's what gets us in trouble sometimes. With that being said, she told me straight up, she like, look, even if you want to get married in the future, you got to pay down this debt. And we had a bond so close at that time. I wasn't willing to give that up. You know what I mean? I made sacrifices, but good sacrifices, right? And that came to the point where I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to let you in on this. I'm going to let you see all the financials. It was so bad. I had so much debt that it was time for her to like mention, she was like, oh, so this is all the debts you had? And I was like, oh yeah, I got that one too. And then I was just so embarrassed because you realize that all these things add up. And I'm gonna be very transparent on where the debt came from, right? So the first one had a cell phone. Had the Galaxy Z Fold 3, and I had a Galaxy Active or something like that. It was like a S20 or something like that. So I had two phones, but then they tricked me and it was like AT&T. They was like, oh yeah, but if you get this phone, you get a watch for free. They didn't tell me unless it was in the fine print. They didn't tell me that your watch will actually be activated as a phone service. So I had a separate phone number and plus they were still charging me. The salespeople, they got me, okay? It was that. Then after that, I had another loan, one for like 6,000 because I wanted to take out loans and then put it inside the stock market and pray for a miracle. And then guess what I did when all that went negative? I pulled out another loan. And then as soon as I got out the military, I literally bought a new car. And the reason why I did that was because I had a job offer that I didn't even work. And that's a long story. I'm not even about to get into all that. But pretty much the job was supposed to happen and they kind of played me. I ain't even gonna lie. And with that being said, so now I'm out the military. I ain't got no job at all at the time. And I just feel stuck because I'm like, yo, how do I got a lot of overhead. I literally got 75K in debt. And then I had more loans on top of that. I don't remember. I think it was like 5 loans altogether. And not including including my American Express was 15,000, and then that was maxed out. And then I had a Capital One. Man, I just had so much debt. I'm telling you, like, I know the IRS, they was crying. They was like, yo, I don't know how you gonna make it out of this. I know it. But long story short, the way I was able to overcome this was pretty much my wife. She told me, she was like, hey, if you want to get out of the debt, it's one guy that I recommend you listen to. And his name, everybody may know him, Dave Ramsey, right? I'm the type of person, I don't listen to fully what somebody says, but I can take bits and pieces and come up with my own solution. But he's one of the pioneers when it comes to paying off debt. And he makes it a very thing that he doesn't have debt and etc. And he had some motivational speech. I listened to it, and then, you know what I mean? It went straight up from there, because he was like, when you got so much debt like that, you just got to keep telling yourself, like, I'm like, you have a moment where you just like, yo, I am sick and tired of living like this. And that's how I felt. Like, just imagine you got so much overhead that when you get a paycheck, you like, damn, everything got to go towards this loan. And I only got $50 left. You ain't even eat yet. So that's what I mean. Like, you literally have to get sick and tired of living the way you are instead of just complaining and doing nothing about it. Because that's the only way you're going to get better with your situation. And I took that and I instilled that within myself. So with that being said, lessons learned so far. That moment so far, I learned a couple lessons. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. Yes, because I was expected a job in the start and etc. I went crazy with my money. I was like, oh, I'll pay this car off because my salary gonna be crazy. That job fell through. I didn't even go to it. And number two, just listen. Listen. Shut up and just listen. I'm telling you, you will save yourself a headache if you just listen. You know how many times, even though my wife was giving me advice on how to pay this off and pay that off, I was just stubborn and not listening? Man, if that was the case, if I would have listened, I probably would have paid mine off probably within a year and a half. But instead, it took me about 2 and some change because of my stubbornness at the time. And you may, as a man, you may deal with that, because sometimes if you, or even as a woman, and you have a well-off husband and he's telling you things, but because you've been independent for so long, it's so hard to listen sometimes. You just got to check your ego at the door and just listen, because if somebody is doing better than you are, wouldn't you want to take their advice? Of course. Okay, moving forward. Another lesson that she taught me was that you need to write down your finances. I still do it to this day. I got Google Docs and Google Sheets, but for the most part, I have a planner. Well, we both have a planner, and literally once a week, we sit down with our agenda and we talk about everything that we owe, the bills that's due, and etc. That's how we do it, right? We list down all of the bills that need to be paid and everything that can go towards your savings and etc. And we have a conversation and we do it as one. When I was paying off my debt, we used that same principle in a sense. However, I did a method called a snowball method. And what it simply entails is that within the 75K that I had, I started with the smallest debt and I went all the way up to the largest debt. And don't worry about the interest. I know people say, oh, deal with the highest interest first. No, it's just a mental thing. It worked for me. I literally started off with my smallest bill, which was my cell phone. And one thing I realized with talking to my wife was that it was not about how much money I made. It was literally my behavior. And I'm gonna get to that. When I got my new role, when I got out the military, because my new role that was supposed to be in DC fell through, I literally probably got about half of what I was supposed to get paid. But I was in no room to really negotiate and leverage. I needed to get paid as soon as possible. And I was a contractor, so meaning I had no benefits. And if I did, it was gonna take my paycheck away. And that was a wild moment. But when we wrote everything down, and we talked together, and she was like, hey, you got X amount of dollars left. And I'm like, huh? How? And that made me realize was that it wasn't about necessarily how much money I made. It was about my behavior with money. Because if you just swipe, and you don't have a plan about where your money goes, you're going to be all over the place. And you're going to be like, man, what happened to the money? Literally, I remember it'd be times where I'm thinking about I'm going to get some food. And then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm like, ooh, my account is negative. How did this happen? I'm telling you, it happens. If you're not taking control of your money and you're not watching where every dollar goes, you could be in that same situation, if not already in it. Moving forward, I paid off the cell phone. And when I even did that, it made me feel relief because my cell phone bill was $250. So when I paid that off, it was about $1,500 I had to pay, $2,000, something like that. And once I paid that off within a month and a half, man, I was just like, oh wow, I have like $250 back. But guess what I did when I had this new loan that was $5,000? The minimum payment was $289, I believe. And I took that $250 from my phone bill and I applied it with the $289 towards the principal. And now that's more money. That's more than double what I was supposed to pay on my loan. And I kept doing it. And eventually, like months after, I ended up paying it off. It probably took me about 2 or 3 months or something like I said, these are estimations, but I'm just telling you how it was. And then I just kept doing the same thing. Wow, I paid this off, $289. And then I got that $250 that I was paying for my AT&T phone bill together for that's over $500. So you put that together and then you put it towards the next loan. And literally, that's why it's called a snowball, because you start off small, a couple flakes of snow, which is, your couple of dollars. And then the more you pay off, it becomes a bigger snowball. And that's from the AT&T, the loan, another loan. And then it becomes massive to where you take that huge snowball and then you put it towards your last loan. And that's what I did. So I went from AT&T, a new loan, another loan, another loan, another loan, and then your car. And that's pretty much how I paid it off. It was very rough. And I'm not saying it like I did everything perfect. I definitely made mistakes within there. Man, I remember I could have got out so early. It was one time I ended up getting my taxes and I had a couple thousand and I was under so much pressure and I was like, man, I was just being so strict and everything that I wasn't paying attention. I was just like, I need to live a little bit because my old bad habits are still there. They didn't go away, right, at the moment. And man, like I remember I blew it. I think I put it on food. Like I was just buying stuff. And then so when me and my wife we was doing updates on the planner, she was like, "Where's the money?" And I'm like, I don't even know because I didn't know because I was being super reckless with my money. That's how bad it was. And that definitely took a toll on both of us because that came from me not listening. If somebody is trying to help you, please take advantage of them helping you and let them help you. And especially if it's coming from a good place, even though they might say things you might not want to hear, just try to listen because it could have been more of a seamless process if you really did. At this point, I'm halfway through paying everything off. And fast forward, when I was a contractor for the role, I ended up getting a full-time position for that role that I was a contractor at. And man, my salary went up from like 70 grand, 75 grand, and it went all the way up to 85 grand. And plus I got a bonus with it because I'm a very faith-based person. I got deeper in my faith the older I'm getting, and it made me realize that the deeper you are in your faith and the more disciplined you are, the more that you are rewarded. And me following my faith inside like my spirituality and the God and stuff, it helped out a lot more. Because I'm gonna tell you, if I did 75,000, right? And then I got 85,000 plus I got a bonus of like 15% or something like that. And then on top of that, so I'm being rewarded for good behavior with my money because I'm starting to get the patterns. Another thing that happened was that I got approved for my VA disability, right? Because when I was in the military, I did a lot of physical activity that put strain on my back, and some other things, but I'm not about to get into all that. I took my disability check and then I took my work check and I collided together. And that's what I mean. It's just more so like these are things I wasn't even expecting to get VA disability, but it just happened based off of my behavior and me just being good at the time. And then after that, I would say at this point I'm getting really close to paying off my debt. And this was around March, February, something like that. And around this time, I was due for another tax payment for my check and also my bonus. And of course, I got disability. And one of the good things that happened, even while still continue to pay off, my VA disability increased from 70 to 90%. Then on top of that, I end up getting another bonus to pay off my debt. And then I even got a raise. I got an annual raise for my salary at the time. So literally I took all those. It was even projected for me to pay it off probably like 6 months after that. Because when you get a bonus, of course they got to tax it. So you don't really know how much. And I wasn't expecting to get an increase inside my disability. I took all these three incomes at this point and I paid all of my loan off. And man, man, it was even hard at the time when I had my tax check and I wanted to buy something. That is very hard. Just imagine you get like, I'm just throwing a random number, but just imagine you got $5,000 and then you be like, man, I'm gonna buy me something. Like I'm gonna buy me a new technology piece or some sneakers or something like that. And then it just got to go all towards debt. That is discipline and that is very difficult to do. But like my wife always tells me, sometimes you just got to close your eyes and just click. And I did it and it was finally paid off. And it just felt like a huge weight off my shoulders because just imagine you paid $75,000 off. And now over 2 and some change years, you paid $75,000 off. So imagine 2 years now, and all you're going to do is make more money here on out. That's $75,000 that you get back and you ain't got to worry about no interest or anything like that. So now you can invest, you can do your 401k, IRA, everything, contributions. Literally, I can buy any technology I want. I can go on vacation with my wife. I can literally do so many things because I have the freedom to do things. Now it's to the point where, of course, I spend money. I'm not perfect. I still spend money and I still like buying food. But I realize that sometimes it's about moderation. But also, I would definitely say it's based off of having the freedom to do what you want with your money. But you know now that, of course, you can always head in the wrong direction, but you know how to be more disciplined and you was in that situation. Now you know how to get yourself out of that situation if it was ever to happen again. God forbid, hopefully not. But these are different principles and different lessons that I took over time. And I've done many things. I've done many things beyond that. Still being disciplined with money, right? I ended up getting promoted. Got promoted. That was another raise and a higher bonus. And then on top of that, with my VA disability, every year they try to compete with inflation, so you get a raise on that. But it's not a situation anymore to where it feels like a struggle. And that's what I mean. Even if you don't make six figures, it's okay. You can literally, if you are a very disciplined person, you should be able to live off of 75K, 70,000. It's just the way you live and you have to live below your means. If you 20 years old and you still trying to find a career, there should be no reason why you got a Mercedes Benz or a BMW. And if somebody gave it to you for a gift or, you got an income for it and you're not in debt, all right, cool. You know what I mean? It's okay to have a Toyota Camry. It's okay to live under your means because you'll get further ahead living simplistic than you will trying to start off being complex. Even when I started off in my career, when I tried to do my video content, you look at my first video, I had a Sony A7 III. And guess where that money came from? Me taking out a huge loan. I had a gaming laptop, I had an A7 III, I had the crazy lens on it, and I had some expensive software to back it up. And with that, the funny part is I didn't even know how to work a camera that good. But I'm over here thinking that I need to be the expert and I need to spend all this crazy money, and it wasn't even necessary. What I realized was that it's not what you have, it's how you use what you have. And then luckily I sold my camera. And that's another thing you can do too. If you really don't have money, if you have things around like that you spend crazy money on, like a technology or sneakers or something like that, I'll recommend selling it. You would get it back faster than you bought it. So I sold my camera, and you know what I mean? I made some decent money to put it towards my loan. And now when I was using my camera, it was the Sony A5100. And at first I had to humble myself because I remember it was just sitting on a TV stand. I was like, man, I'm not recording with this. Like this is old. You know who I am. I had the Sony A7 III. It's just all ego talk. And, furthermore, I'm like, well, I ain't got no damn money. So at this point, you just got to make it work. You can't just sit here and just tell yourself that, oh, I'm a do what I got to do. I mean, I'm a wait until I get the Sony A7 III again before I record. Because that was the case. That's me waiting 2.5 years before I could record again. But I knew what my objective was. So I had to humble myself and I had to, move around with it. So guess what I did? I kept my laptop, but I used the older camera and I made it work. I was still getting the traction from it. People were still, commenting and and that's what I took advantage of. Now, today, I actually have a ZV-E10 Mark II. And you want to hear something funny? It's still not as good as the Sony A7 III. But guess what? It was paid off in cash. It wasn't paid off using a loan. And I got it for a really good deal. The camera was literally like a $1,300 camera, and I got it for like $700. That's what I mean. Sometimes you just got to work with what you have until you get what you want. want. But you only get that way by being faithful, deeper in your faith, deeper in your spirituality, and whoever, you praise, whether it's, God, Allah, etc. Get deep into that and you'll see the rest will follow through like it's supposed to. And those are some of the lessons that I definitely took on this journey, on this financial journey. And now I feel so much relief doing what I do now. Now that I told you my story, go ahead and I would love to hear your story. Go ahead and comment, subscribe, like, and comment down. Just tell me exactly, your story if you in a situation or anything like that. I try to reply to anything I possibly can. But next week I definitely want to tap more into the financial aspect when having a cybersecurity check, because I know a lot of people, especially like college students, they get out the game and they like, man, like they offering how much money? I pray that you find this video before you get that salary. So, even if you got college debt or whatever, student loans, you could find a way to pay that off so it's not taking with you to the grave, and also still live life, right? So yeah, definitely check out this video. And then next week, what I want to do is I want to make an episode based off of what I do to actually invest, because since I'm no longer paying off debt, it's more so about what do I do with this money and how do I invest it and where do I allocate money. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible to where everybody can understand it. But yeah, I definitely appreciate the support. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll let you later. Peace.